My name is Tegan Doherty. I'm an artist currently living in Berlin since 6 years, originally from the UK, England, Nottingham. And I've been living here in Thurup Hus. I am primarily a painter, but I also make etchings, monoprints, drawings, bits of sculpture. And I wanted to come here to do the residency for many reasons. Actually, it's my first time in Denmark. Very much wanted to visit Denmark. And my proposal was actually entitled Sustainability of the Mind, and it was very important for me to kind of remove myself from the work that I was doing for a time, also this constant demand for emailing and staying afloat in social media, and being able to kind of get back to a much more physical approach and communication with myself and my materials. And I actually wanted to, I mixed my paints from pigment for quite a long time, and it allows you to get much closer to the materials that you're using and to be able to understand the paint in a different way. And I wanted to make my own pigments here from the land, from the materials that were available to me. So I was making, I started out by making a pigment out of the charcoal from the fire. And yeah, the process of making pigment from the charcoal is not so complicated, but you just grind it up to create the pigment. I can show you if you like. And then you mix it with oil to make oil paint, and then use a glass grinder to grind it into more of a solution. And actually I started off by making these, I mean, also taking the first few days to familiarise myself a bit with the surroundings and to get to know the house a little bit. And there's no electricity here, so in the evenings everything is lit by candles and oil lamps, and it's yeah, you feel very at one with the movement of things and the light. And so during the day you have to get certain things done and prepare for the evenings. The first night was interesting because I started making dinner very late and then was out with my lantern in between the outhouse, sort of back and forth, and but yeah, I got used to that very quickly. But it's a very nice environment to. So these are the first things I started doing with the charcoal paint, and initially just kind of creating these backgrounds with a brush, and also bits of print, rolling the paint out like ink onto glass, and just pressing on the back to create these marks. And then I spent the sort of first week yeah, in the evenings with this incredible atmosphere from the candles and the shadows, creating these, shall I lay them out for you? Creating these drawings just from the images that I could see within the marks. So they started out sort of somewhat like this, just the marks, and then using an old calligraphy pen and ink, sort of drawing into them. They remind me a little bit of etchings, actually.
Yeah.
But because, I mean, for example, mixing the paint from charcoal, which is something that you know, is very unlikely I would have done if I wasn't here. It's actually very different from using paint or ink, because the charcoal doesn't mix completely somehow with the oil, so it creates this kind of very chalky material as the pigment rises to the surface when it dries a little bit. But it actually, the way that it mixes with the ink, it sort of allows for these very, very fine lines and for me, it kind of appears as though the images are much more emerging from the page as opposed to being put on top with as it would be if you just used ink on paper.
You have been staying here for a month almost. How was it to be here all alone by yourself, almost?
Amazing, actually. Yeah, it was very much what I was seeking, was to spend some time to myself and allow for a sort of deeper, more intimate thought processes. And yeah, it's actually been, I did wonder before I came here how intense it would get, or I obviously wasn't quite sure of the environment that I was going to come to, but it's actually been, I mean, I could spend a lot longer here by myself, and to be honest...
Will you come back next year, maybe?
I'd love to come back at some point, yeah. I'd like to plan an exhibition, actually, of the work that I've been making during the residency, to have an excuse to come back here and visit. But yeah, the people here are really welcoming and friendly, and there's a really beautiful sense of community here. And to be honest, there's not been so many days where I haven't had interaction with people, whether that's just been speaking to someone or... So I think really it was mainly in the first week that I had a bit more of an intense experience of not seeing people so often. But also my life in Berlin basically revolves around me going to the studio, and I spend a lot of time by myself, and so it's not such a huge difference in terms. But yeah, it's something that I was seeking, and so it's been an incredible experience. Yeah.